to Russia and its provocation.
She's the longest-serving Home Secretary for more than 50 years and the most powerful Conservative woman since Margaret Thatcher. Theresa May has won the Conservative Party leadership race and will become Britain's next Prime Minister. I'm joined by Janan Ganesh, the FT's political commentator. Janan, Theresa May has been crowned in what we thought was going to be a long race, but suddenly been curtailed. Why has she won so easily?
Well, Napoleon said never interrupt your opponent while he's making a mistake. Theresa May refused to interrupt Boris Johnson, then Michael Gove, and eventually Andrea Leadsom, while they piled mistake upon mistake in recent weeks. And they've all essentially sabotaged themselves from this Conservative leadership contest. And Andrea Leadsom, the last person to go, has effectively vacated the party and the country for Theresa May. She'll be Prime Minister by Wednesday evening, simply by allowing other people to mess up.
Well, these are all the leavers who in effect failed to stay. But tell me, Janan, who is Theresa May?
She's probably the most inscrutable new Prime Minister we've had for many decades. And that's strange because she's been around for a long time. She's been Home Secretary for 6 years, Shadow Home Secretary for 2 years before that. And yet we know incredibly little about her views beyond that portfolio. We don't know what she thinks about the economy, for example.
Although she's come in with some rather interesting ideas about introducing worker representatives on major company boards.
Yeah, she's had a go at the corporate fat cats, so-called. She's calling for a proper industrial strategy, whatever that means. So economic messages which are not classically Thatcherite or classically conservative. And we do know, of course, that she campaigned for Remain, but in a fairly tentative way during the recent referendum on Britain's EU membership. She was about as reluctant as you can get without actually being a leaver.
So not a closet leaver?
We assume she's not a closet leaver, but everything she said since the referendum has not radiated a sense that, well, I'm someone who wants to stay in the single market or negotiate a very close relationship with the single market. The overwhelming impression you get from her views on migration, from what she said about the single market, from her conservatism as a Home Secretary over the past 6 years, is that she's not going to be a sort of liberal Tory Prime Minister. If your great hope was that the one consolation of Brexit would be that we would become a Singapore and become much more competitive and dynamic and business friendly, I'm not sure Theresa May is the Prime Minister you need. I think we're in line for quite an orthodox, small C Conservative Prime
Minister. A bit like
Minister.
John Major in the early 1990s. Then.
I would say even more so, and maybe even a sort of pre-Thatcher type of conservatism where order and stability and social cohesion come ahead of economic dynamism.
So how's she going to reconcile the conflicting positions adopted by the Leave campaign? Because Theresa May has said Brexit is Brexit, it's going to happen. And the biggest incoherence, obviously, is those who want access to the single market. But the price, in European terms, has to be free movement and immigration.
Yeah, she has to choose which bit of the country to disappoint. The people who want us to maintain a bit of continuity by staying in the single market, or the people who are absolutely ravenous for a big change when it comes to borders and migration. And again, my guess is that she's going to favour the people who want a clampdown on immigration. She words it very carefully. She does not say she wants to end free movement. She says she wants to gain back control of free movement, which leaves open some room, I think, for a negotiated deal with the EU whereby you trade some market access for some control on migration.
Right. Now, we know that the big question facing the next government, and Theresa May, as you say, will shortly become Prime Minister, is when you press the red button, that is Article 50, the irrevocable decision to leave the EU, and you negotiate the terms of divorce. At the moment, unlike Mrs. Leadsom, Theresa May has said she wants to play for time. So do you think it'll be 6 months before she takes that decision? And do you think there might be she might call a general election on the basis of a negotiating package with Europe?
Well, she has said that she will not invoke Article 50 this year. I think she envisages doing it at the very beginning of next year. Now, it could be the case that by the beginning of next year, the economy at best is stagnating, and it could be in a worse condition than that. It's a very brave Prime Minister who, during an economic phase of trouble, triggers Article 50 because you're almost asking for further economic trouble. Business has become very reluctant to hire, to commit an additional pound of investment. Consumers become very reluctant to spend an additional pound when they know we're in this 2-year period of negotiation where arguably the EU has us over a barrel.
Now, Janan, you bet cleverly on Euro 2016. You backed Portugal with your bet. I'm going to ask you now, what about a bet on the general election? Do you think there will be one in the first half of 2017?
Yes, simply because having become coronated rather than elected Tory leader, Theresa May might feel she lacks a mandate. And secondly, the absolute state of the Labour Party under Jeremy Corbyn, which is still trailing the Tories despite all their problems, suggests that she has a very real political incentive to go to the country next year.
Janan Ganesh, political commentator, successful gambler, thank you very much.
Thank you.